Welcome to a new episode of IWA-YWP Canada Podcast. It's an honor for us to be doing this podcast. I'm going to be hosting this podcast. I'm Hayat Reza, along with
Farokh, Kakar, your other host. And today's episode, we have a very special guest. He doesn't need introduction. He is the legend of the wastewater treatment. If you went to school, if you haven't read his book, The Wastewater Treatment, then I don't know what you're missing. Maybe you should fill that course. Welcome, Glen Daigger. Welcome to our episode. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being here. I would like you to introduce yourself if you wish, well, which we don't need, but for sure.
Well, I'm Glen Daigger. I've been around in this profession for some time. There's an official way to count, and I did that recently. So I've been a water professional for 48 years.
Wow.
So part of making some contributions is just to stick around for a while and do positive things. So I spent 35 years employed in professional practice with a large engineering firm called Sage Hill, which is now it's now basically the water practice for Jacobs Engineering is where you would find it. I led the wastewater practice for a good period of time, and then I was the chief technology officer for the water business for Sage Hill. I've also been quite engaged from a professional and academic perspective, and one of the things being here at the International Water Association World Water Congress, I was senior vice president for IWA for 4 years and then president of IWA for 4 years.
Wonderful. It's an honor to have you here.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you for sharing 48 years of work experience. We both are just going to become senior professionals. So you have started your career way before we were even born. So, and I'm a drinking water practitioner, but I started learning a little bit about wastewater. And each time I try to learn about wastewater, I see your name. So one thing always, when you start your career is, yes, you got started in a particular sector when you do engineering, but you did environmental engineering, but what was the motivation? I think this is a two-part question. One, if you could share your motivation in continuing for 48 years. And the second would be, how has the journey evolved? What changes have you seen in the industry?
So, you experiment your way into your place in life, and you experiment your way forward. So, but first of all, for me, it was curiosity. So, I today remain a very curious person, and one of the great things my education was in environmental engineering, and water is a big part of that. There's so much to learn, and one of the things about water is no matter what you learn, so, we need to know our physics and our chemistry and our biology, economics, sociology, psychology, all of these things apply to water because we do water in service of people in the planet.
True. Yes, true.
So we need to understand those contexts. So that's one of the things which has really led me to water. The second thing is every day, you come to work and we do the things that we do and so forth, but over time, both of you have been doing this long enough to appreciate this as well. You go back to where you've done done a project or so forth, and you see how people's lives are better. That's what we do every day, is things which make people's lives better. And the third thing about water is the people. So, it's such an enriching profession. But the people in water are here because they're curious and because they are looking to make a positive contribution. So the people that you work with, you share that with. and water people help each other. There's some professions where it's pretty competitive.
Yeah.
And, we have to compete in some instances, but water people help each other. So those are the reasons that I've stayed at this for such a long time, and I've had great opportunities. So you can't plot out your career. You can have a direction and a vision. You can have an understanding of the things that you can continue to learn. You can have an understanding of the skills you need to develop. But you have to be ready when the right opportunity comes along. So, things come along and they look really great, but some of them are fool's gold. But some of the things that will be the best things for you to do look like not so good at first. So it's a little bit of gaining the experience and the wisdom in terms of deciding when something comes along, is this a thing for me or not for me in terms of my journey. So I think for me I've made more good decisions than bad decisions in that. So everybody makes bad decisions. If you do, just back up. You learned something, but so you experience it and you figure it out over the course of your journey.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm speechless.
Yeah. I think that has answered so many questions for all the folks. Young water professional folks always have this question. So, yeah.
I agree. Thanks, Glenn, for that, for sharing all this questions. For a moment, I was going deep into my thoughts. Like, what decision I have made wrong? What opportunities I have missed? Thanks for that. Now, you also talked about finance and managing finance. I'll tell you a little bit of story, and then I'll ask my question about it. One day in Vancouver, where I live right now, with my colleagues, we did a hiking when we reached the top, and then we started talking about finances and then all the beautiful houses, mansions that are in West Vancouver. And I was like, should we buy that one day? And I remember our office manager, he was like, you're in the wrong profession. Like, we never become millionaires. And I was like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think that's true. I think we could make it. So that was a really interesting discussion. And then we met you. And then we have other examples in the water industry that you actually can become a millionaire. You can actually make wealth. You can manage your finances better. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to hear that for those people who actually have a vision to manage their wealth differently and make an impact, like myself. I'm an entrepreneur too on the side. So can you share with us, how did you manage your finances? How were you able to contribute and give away also once you gathered the wealth? So if you can tell us a little bit about that.
So let me start by giving you some information. So, there's almost nothing in this world that hasn't been studied in one way or the other. And one of the things that's been studied, the types people in different professions, which ones are most likely to earn a comfortable living, if you will, to have some some discretionary money to deal with. So it's not like becoming a billionaire or something like that, but to have financial resources that are comfortable and that you can actually do some other things with. You know what the number one profession in that is? Engineers. The secret is to realize that money is a means. It's not an end. So, buying $1 million house could be a good investment, particularly if it's in a location where the housing prices continue to go up. But the advice is to, if you're going to buy a house in a given neighborhood, don't buy the most expensive house. Buy something in the medium to lower range, because that most expensive house, as it goes up in value, it'll drag yours up.
Wait.
So if you're not the most expensive, but every house is going up by some fraction of the most expensive house, yours goes up at the same number of dollars per year, but you're starting with a lower investment.
Yeah.
You're literally proving their real estate's wrong.
Well, the real estate, you need to understand, the real estate agent, their fee is based on a percent of sales.
Boy.
So this gets into, one of the things I've learned is that many engineers, many technical people grossly misunderstand their native skill. They think it's the particular knowledge that they have. But the good practitioner, the skill of the good practitioner is to look at a situation, look at a particular case, and create a model. Now, it doesn't have to be a mathematical model, but it's how does this system work? Once you know how the system works, then you know what you can most productively do to get the result that you're looking for. That's the native skill. Now, as practitioners, we talk about frame the problem. Figure out what the problem really is. That's what I'm describing here. So, and this applies every place. Figure out how the system works, and then, given your objectives, figure out how to best achieve those objectives.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a business mentor that she exactly gave me the same advice, but I couldn't understand it because she was in different industry, and I was like, "You're talking because you're
Different
in
jargon,
industry."
right? Different jargon. Yeah.
And when you say it, because it just applies so much in engineering in our field, this creating the system is the key to whatever you offer. So then the system works for you, and then the wealth accumulates. Then you don't have to be there and do everything. I love it. Love it.
Yep.
Thanks, Glenn.
So, just to decipher in more simpler terms for the young water professional audience, what Glenn is saying is that not only knowledge is important, but being a solution. Finding solutions from the problem is going to get you to the top faster than just having a lot of knowledge. So be cognizant about that, and to find a solution, you need to work with a lot of people. So indirectly, what he's really trying to say, be a team player, be someone who is approachable, be someone who is empathetic. So thank you for sharing with this for us.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
That also means we can buy that house on the west.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Your favorite topic is wastewater treatment because so many
let's go there.
publications, so many work. Recently, I was reading, a financial statement or a company update from Veolia's CEO talking about ecological transformation. And most of the big players, because I'm a vendor, and most of the vendors right now, like Xylem and Veolia, they're focusing on ecological transformation, which means nature-based solutions or biological treatment solution. And talking to someone who you know very well, Dr. Al-Sayed, who happens to be Farokh's advisor as well.
Oh, you had to mention that. Oh, God.
Yeah. So I was talking to him about wastewater treatment because I found it exciting too. Being from drinking water, I've started feeling drinking water is a little more boring. Ecological transformation, nature-based solution, biological treatment. Where do you think the industry is going, and do you think there is more progress going to be coming with it?
So So I am an engineer at heart. So tools are tools. Tools are tools. So it's really addressing anything. It's first of all understanding the system, understanding the things that are available to you to apply in the system, and then making decisions about what fits the best. So consciously using more of the landscape and reconfiguring the landscape, which is one way to describe what a nature-based solution is, right? So, I mean, that's a tool that's very available to us. I want to come back in a minute here to, you talked about multidisciplinary teams and working with people with other knowledge. In school, you get the idea that knowledge is gained in a classroom.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you want to learn something, find a good colleague that knows something about that, and just talk to them. So you have teachers available to you for your entire career. So I in terms of, as you talk about nature-based solutions, I think back to some of my teachers about those kinds of systems who were some excellent practitioners. So one of the things that I've learned is that someone that's an expert in some area, they've got a lot of detailed knowledge, but underlying the use of knowledge are a series of core principles, and there's no more than 10. So if you want to understand, and if you want to understand what a nature-based solution can and can't do, just start talking with an expert. Ask them what their 10 core principles are. They might have to think for a minute. Some people can't articulate that directly, but get them talking and reverse engineer. And you won't in this become the expert, but you'll understand what these systems, first of all, how they accomplish their outcomes, and therefore what they can do and what they can't do. So we have underutilized the more of the landscape and so forth. We have underutilized these things, which is why there's so much buzz about them now, is because we will do proportionally more as we make up for that. I actually hate the term because I've dealt with natural systems my entire career.
Okay.
What goes on in an activated sludge system is pretty doggone natural.
Yeah.
And just like in nature-based solutions where we modify the environment to get the organisms to do some different things, I've been doing that for 48 years.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you, when I started learning about wastewater treatment, I read activated sludge, and just to Dr. Glen Daigger's point, if you understand activated sludge, principles on MBR, MBBR are almost the same. It's just the operation changes, but the science is the same.
Good idea to do homework. We're majority here.
Yeah.
Well, in nature-based solutions, there's physical chemical things going on, and it's as a drinking water person, you can take what you know and apply it. There's a lot of biology that goes on. A lot of what happens in a nature-based solution is we grow media and we have biofilm systems.
Yeah.
So if you understand biofilms and biofilm engineering, it gives you a basic understanding of how these systems work. So we just, rather than buy media, we just grow it.
Yeah. Okay. So as we're doing technical talks, let's get into it. I'm sure most of our audience know your work, but the refresher never hurts. About the outstanding research, the breakthroughs, what what you really are proud, and we are proud of, that you could share with our audience, that this is what has revolutionized, sorry, now my English with my tongue twisting words. If you could tell us about that a little bit.
I will, but you know what the official language of IWA is? Broken English.
That's exactly my language.
Well, I'm an American, so just ask the Brits, and they'll say my English is very broken too. So, you know, probably the area that I worked in the most initially, and probably made the first contributions. It goes back to we were talking before we started the podcast about books, but causes and cures of activated sludge, bulking, foaming, and other solid separation problems. So it was an academic in the Czech Republic, Jan Hudeba, that did the fundamental laboratory work that introduced the idea of the selector in activated sludge systems as a biological way to control the microbial population and therefore its settling characteristics. And that was quite transformational in terms of the being able to make biological treatment systems more economical. Because when you had good settling sludge, you got more capacity out of your system, and the economy then came through, at first, being able to get more capacity from that infrastructure, and then later to put less capital in place to get the necessary capacity. It's been very interesting that now, as the focus on granular sludge, and what I've observed is in some of the work on granular sludge is rediscovering some of the things that we discovered about sludge bulking, because granular sludge now is employing the same mechanisms to grow denser granules and sticky granules, along with then the physical separation to retain the fraction that you want and reject the fraction that you don't want. So it's adding another level of selection to the systems. And I think, as many of the listeners to the podcast, they'll know this is one of the hot research topics. So so that's a thread for me. I was very lucky early in my career to become engaged with biological nutrient removal. It was actually in the mid-1980s that got involved with piloting and selecting and designing the first biological nutrient removal plant that I was involved with. And those two things, of course, sludge bulking and nutrient removal, come together very much, because the way you configure the reactor can give you better settling sludge, but also nutrient removal. So, and that's something that's continued through my entire career. So back in the 80s and into the early 90s, those of us that are working, really, our vision of the future is that nutrient removal would become a standard feature. A lot of people say, there'll be a little bit here, a little bit, but it won't mainstream. But it has, because the environment needs it. So that's another area. I've also, over my career, this started at Sagetown Hill on the practical side, but carries through now into at the University of Michigan now, where I am, just looking for those new things. Yeah. So that's biofilm systems. So in particular, hybrid systems where you have a suspended growth, but coupled with with the biofilm. And that was, from a practical perspective, the trickling filter solids contact process was one of the first of those. And so I became involved with that and helped to advance that very early in my career. IFAS comes along, and now the membrane aerated biofilm reactor as a component of these systems. I see quite a bit of I see real possibility for that, because it allows us to do some things that we haven't. And mentioning membrane aerated biofilm reactors, I was really privileged in the late 90s and into the 2000s through C.H. Hill to be a major factor in terms of bringing membrane bioreactors into practice. So we saw the potential. I saw that MBRs were they were the next transformational technology in terms of water reuse, and that water reuse at one point was, we'll do a little bit here, a little bit here, but we won't do it every place. We're in the transition, the one water transition to reuse will be the default.
Yeah.
Reuse is becoming the default. So I think you see in that how water evolves over time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Glenn. And I think our audience now know when they bump into you, if they didn't know you, which they should know you, they know which topics they can talk to you about. Thanks.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you just mentioned about MBR, and right now, if you look at any decentralized system, MBR is the way to go.
Yeah.
It's easy to operate, simple, and that gets the job done. Okay, so we have talked a lot about technical topic, and thank you so much for sharing this, because we are short on time. Let's get a little non-technical, and let's focus on the water sector as a whole. You have been in the industry for 48 years. You have seen a lot of new regulations come out, right? Most recently, PFAS was brought down to 4 parts per trillion. So from your experience, what are the most pressing challenges the water industry still has today? And how do you think, because you have seen the best of both the worlds, you have seen working with vendors, you have worked in consulting, you have worked in academia, how can industry and academia combine and collaborate more to solve these challenges?
So, academia and practice, they're two sides of the same coin. The question is getting them effectively talking to each other. So, I have been at that intersection for my career. So, people that know me, I describe myself as, over my career, I've had 1 foot in academia and 1 foot in practice. Sometimes I've been paid from one sector and paid from the other sector. So we need more people like that. So the people that can span that can be lodged in one of those two places. But it's the curiosity, quite frankly, to think about, what can we learn? What are the new tools that we can have access to? But then how do we bring them into practice? So and we have the examples. So I was a person that's done that over my career, more on the practice side, and now on the academic side. I think one of the examples of some examples of people in academia, so recently passed away, but David Jenkins was my co-author on the manual, was a great example of someone that over his career did outstanding academic work, but it was always focused on solving problems and engaging in the practice community. Probably the leading example right now is Mark Van Loostricht, who does wonderful engineering and so forth, but very much focused. And you look at the things that that he's helped to develop, but then helped to get into practice. So we need more people that can fit into either slot. And it's possible. And it's very possible.
I think you mentioned Mark, the gentleman.
Mark Van Loostreet.
Okay, so he's the founder of Animox, I believe, right? He's the inventor of Animox.
Well, no.
Okay.
But we think of him, and granular sludge, and particularly Merida,
Narita person.
is the so he did the bulk of the laboratory work and so forth that led to that formed the basis for forming the sequencing batch reactor granular sludge process that's now marketed as Narita.
I have a follow-up question on that, Glenn, because you mentioned that you should, if you can put the 1 feet in academia and the 1 feet in practice, you can do better. But our system is not designed like that. Our system wants both feet in one place. I'll give you an example. As an early career person, you either get a job in industry and then consulting that they don't need to do any academics, right? Or very limited. Or you're a professor, and if you're doing consulting, you get into trouble a little bit with your, then they're like, oh, you're not focusing like you're teaching and this or that. So the system is not really welcoming that. So how should people navigate that? How practically can you do that?
So there's a couple of answers to that, but the practical operational answer to that is whichever of these two you're in, figure out how to do enough and leave time to do the things in the other bucket.
Okay.
We had a keynote this morning. I don't know if you were at it,
Yes,
but Paul Brown talked about utilities and resilience, and he talked about some techniques, real options. He talked about looking at the potential futures, and essentially taking steps that give you flexibility. That's the answer.
That makes sense.
What you've described is someone that, yes, I know the template and I am going to absolutely optimize, and you put yourself where you don't want to be.
Right.
No, just don't do that. Figure out which side you were on, what you need to do to be successful, but leave some time to do the things that position you otherwise.
So
one of the things which I did as a practitioner was, as a practitioner, if you're developing a technical reputation, you should do things with clients, and you should present papers at conferences, right?
Yep, totally.
Publish them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Publish them.
Publish the conference papers.
Or sometimes what you do is you're working on something, and there's this you do a conference paper, then you do a next step, and you do a conference paper, and then by the third conference paper, you have enough to publish.
Well, you tackle to it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one of the core reasons I am where I am is that for some reason I did that.
Okay.
And
Where?
so that's an example. Think about, and Patty had to put up with me working, some evenings or some Saturday afternoons and so forth. And fortunately, she put up with that and so forth. So yeah, you put a little you figure out how to get done.
So what I'm hearing is that despite how the system is, the time management, carving time for it, and it's okay to go outside the system.
Absolutely.
And publish.
Absolutely.
Of your work. Oh, that was brilliant. Thanks.
Yeah. So, there's in the Christian tradition, so this is in international and Canada's the mosaic, but there's a saying out of the Christian, so it's actually in the New Testament. So this is in the final days for Jesus when he's in Jerusalem and he's eventually going to be crucified and so forth. This is when the Romans were, looking to, to be in control of everything, and so here was a Christian that was in a Roman state, and the question to him was, which God do you serve? So Caesar was the emperor of Rome. He said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render it to God what is God's.
Good.
Wherever you are, do what you need to do, but leave the ability to do the things that are meaningful to you.
Wow, awesome.
Sense.
Well, I think we have time for just one last question because we are running out of time.
Should that be
Sorry?
Should that be the lead?
Yeah, why not?
It's sure. Okay. So at the World Water Congress in Toronto, we all got the announcement that generously you and your beautiful wife have funded this project for leadership of young water professionals called LEAP. Mm-hmm. And we're also excited and looking forward to it. And wanted to just hear your reflections and motivations for that program, and anything else you wanted to share with the audience about that.
So the motivation was, we actually started talking with Kala and Tom Mollenkoff and so forth about being able to do something for IWA. IWA has done so much for me and Patty.
Yeah.
One of the first things they suggested was something with the YWPs. So I spent 4 years as senior vice president, 4 years as president, which was a time frame when fairly early in the development of the YWP program, and we supported that and interacted with the first couple of cohorts of the leadership of that. I now see how, and Patty sees, how those folks have graduated from that and and are moving to be broader leaders and so forth. So when they said that, it was obvious that helping that process is part of sustaining the profession. So I do want to make it clear that what we did was to provide an initial seed for the endowment.
Mm-hmm.
So now an endowment means that the money that goes into it, plus a little bit more to keep a constant value, stays there forever. The money has to be invested, and it's the return that is then used on an ongoing basis. Endowments are very standard things. So whatever currency you're looking at, dollars in all the different versions, euros, pounds, krona, RMB, no matter where you're at, whatever currency, whatever money you put in is there forever. All we did was to start the process, and as we, working with IWA and Colin and Tom and the leadership and so forth, we know that to really do what we need to do here, we need to take what we've put in and it needs to be doubled and then doubled again. Yeah. So this is where the rest of the water profession, and this is the heart of the water profession. The heart of the water profession believes in people, believes in the young people, and understands that to sustain we need to be putting something in, just like someone put something in for us. So we're just the founding sponsors, but there'll be more to come.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much for the leap and the podcast.
Well, wow, it was amazing talking to you. Thank you so much. It's an honor again for us to be hosting you here in Canada. All I can say is we had a lot more questions for you, but we ran out of time. But for all you YWP folks out there, if you want to learn more about wastewater treatment, which I'm actually planning to meet then after this, to understand a little bit more about wastewater treatment. If you want to do, and if you're at the World Water Congress, please do meet him. Get in touch with him. He is an authority in wastewater treatment. And with this, we would like to conclude this podcast. Once again, your host, Farokh, and myself, we will see you with an exciting episode very soon. Thank you.
Take care.